My wife, 38 female, and I, 43 male, were married for 13 years. She was a second-grade teacher, had an elementary school for several years. There were a few parent-teacher conferences and school faculty parties that we attended together. I got to meet her colleagues and even the principal and his wife. In 2015, my wife and I had a daughter of our own. From my perspective, life was perfect. My MIL decided to treat us to a trip to Hollywood, California, since my wife had a passion for the film industry and movies. We each brought 2 friends along. As a group, we toured a few of the film sets for The Mandalorian. Afterwards, we split up. The girls went to a nightclub while the guys went to a casino, aiming to win some money playing poker. While we were apart, my wife texted me about all the naughty things she wanted to do to me when we got back to the hotel room. I got back early, around 11 p.m., showered and ready to have fun. She didn't return until well after 1 a.m., in a drunken stupor. Clearly, nothing was happening tonight, so I tucked her into bed and plugged in her phone. When it lit up, I noticed a text from someone named Bill that read, "I wish I was there with you." This wasn't on her default messaging app, so I unlocked her phone and started reading. Through their conversation about the school, students, and other things, I was able to figure out that it was the principal. Mixed into their casual conversation were messages of adoration and flirting. My wife sent him pictures of her in her sexy outfits and lingerie that was supposed to be for my eyes only. After he told her how hot she was, they discussed how bad it would be if anyone found out about them talking, so they decided they would change their passwords and refrain from texting each other in front of their spouse. It was a terrible plan, and my wife apparently forgot to change her passcode. He also told her he loved her, and I was devastated that she said she loved him too. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to my phone. I found AP's wife on social media. I deleted all traces of my gathering evidence before setting my wife's phone down and waking her up with one question. I asked her why she was messaging the principal of her school. She sat straight up in bed with a gasp and asked me what I was talking about. It looked like she glanced around for her phone too. I told her not to play dumb and that I just read everything and wanted answers. She covered her face and wailed. Before I asked anything, she said she only played along because he said his wife didn't love him anymore. She immediately promised me she would never speak to him again. I told her I didn't care if they continued their relationship because we were over and everyone around town was going to hear what was going on between them. She begged me, sobbing, not to tell anyone about it. I'm sure she would have jumped me if she knew I had the evidence on my phone. I knew she wouldn't leave the hotel without doing her hair and makeup, so I left her there, luggage in hand. Just before the door slammed shut, she screamed that this would ruin our lives. I knew that, and I wanted it to ruin hers and his. Our daughter and I would cope, but when I thought of her, I did feel despair. Her mother betrayed us. I told my MIL and wife's friends that I discovered my wife's affair with the school principal. They could hardly believe it and didn't say much. My MIL apologized to me and said this came as a shock to her. She said she regretted taking us on the trip, but I told her not to blame herself. The only people who needed to feel bad were my wife and AP. I left the hotel with my friends and reached out to AP's wife to tell her everything, along with the proof. The town we lived in, where my wife taught second grade, was a small, close-knit town. Word traveled fast, and chances were everyone knew you or knew of you. After I told AP's wife the terrible news, she took it to social media and reported their affair to the Department of Education herself. My wife was correct. This did ruin their lives. Neither of them were permitted to set foot in the school again, and both of them were served divorce papers. The proof I gathered ensured that I received full custody of our daughter, and we got to keep the house. My wife had no choice but to stay with one of her friends because her mother and everyone else turned against her. From what I heard, the principal left the state after he lost his career and family. OP, I am so sorry your wife carelessly started this affair. She ruined the relationship you both had and threatened her own daughter's well-being by destroying the family. I am relieved that you found proof of what she was doing and collected what you needed before confronting her. Keeping a level head and thinking through each step is critical when you discover a spouse's infidelity. You found support as you went through this by sticking close to your friends and never considered forgiving her or working this out. After a betrayal of this magnitude, it's better to cut ties and heal. Giving yourself time alone and with others who love and support you is crucial. Always live your life honestly and never accept anything less from a significant other. Don't be afraid to let someone earn your trust and prove themselves worthy of your devotion. Thank you for sharing your story. I wish you the best of luck. Now let's get into our second story for today. My fiancée, 26 female, was an extremely spoiled woman. She always had things handed to her, but she never noticed. She just thought life was easy and things would always work out. A part of me fell for this optimism of hers because she drew people in like sunshine. It's no wonder people gave her whatever she wanted. She didn't even have to ask. We dated for 2.5 years before I proposed. I met her family a year into our relationship and they loved me. We grew close and I felt like she was meant to be my wife. We started planning our wedding and it was sure to be a grand event. Her parents spared no expense, agreeing to anything their daughter wanted. One day, she took one of her bridesmaids named Heather to order our wedding cake. When she came home, I expected to hear all about it and see pictures of what she decided on. Instead, she seemed off. She said she didn't feel good and needed to lay down. I asked her how it went, but all she said was that they weren't able to pick one out. I was worried about her, but it was just the start of her odd behavior. Over the next 4 weeks, there were several odd occurrences. One night, my fiancée told me she needed to take one of her bridesmaids out to dinner because she was tempted to cheat on her husband. I was surprised, but wished her luck persuading her friend that cheating is never worth it. She didn't get back until I was fast asleep, and all she said the next day was that she did her best to convince her. Another night, she left the apartment while I was in the shower. It was completely unexpected, so I tried calling her, but she didn't answer until the 3rd try. She said she realized we needed kitty litter for the cats. After she hung up on me, I found a full bag of kitty litter in the back of the closet, like she hid it from me. When she got back 3 hours later without kitty litter, I asked her if she was having doubts about us. She immediately said no, and added that I didn't need to be so concerned when she stepped out. This was bad and weird. I asked her if her friend was cheating on her husband. This caught her off guard, but she admitted her friend was. I said that was too bad, and that she should tell her friend's husband so he could file for divorce. She just looked at me like I was crazy and said she wouldn't rat on her friend even if she was cheating on him. I told her that while it's true that cheating ruins lives, he deserves to know the truth of his wife's betrayal, because no one would want to stay married to a cheater. She couldn't look me in the eye, and it was clear she didn't want to talk about it anymore. Suddenly, there was just 1 month left before the wedding. My fiancée came home late, claiming she was at a birthday party for Heather. After she passed out in bed, I got a message from Heather herself. She told me that she didn't feel right coming to me, but she didn't feel right keeping secrets either. My fiancé had told her to lie to me if I asked about her birthday party. On top of that, she was with her when she was supposed to order our wedding cake. She met a man there who started flirting with her. He asked if she was sure she wanted to get married, because he could win her heart if she let him. She was taken aback, but gave him her number and basically invited him to try. Heather asked me if she'd been acting weird or if I suspected she was seeing someone else. I told her yes and thanked her for telling me. While she slept, I checked her phone. I found messages between her and AP even before she got home that night. He asked if he was winning her heart, and she replied, yes. That night, as my fiancé slept, I installed spyware on her phone so I could see what they said to each other. When she woke up, I told her I was going to stay at my best man's house, Josh, until the ceremony in 1 month for superstitious reasons. She didn't argue with me at all, and actually seemed pleased that she would have the house to herself. While we lived separately, she increased the sexual and romantic messages she sent to AP, even telling him he was a better lover than me. At this point, I was already coping with the end of our relationship. I knew I wasn't marrying this woman, and she was surely going to call off the wedding at any minute. Well, she didn't. She tells AP through the phone that she has to marry me, because her family has already accepted and approved of me. However, since I hadn't discovered their affair yet, They would keep seeing each other until she could frame me for cheating on her so she could get the house and alimony payments. I could not believe the sheer evilness of her plan. She wanted to completely ruin my life, even though I didn't do anything to deserve this. I told my best man, Josh, everything. He helped me to plan revenge against her. I had images of their messages, so we planned the most embarrassing moment of her life. The day of the wedding came, and we got ready as if it was the real deal, except we had a few surprises in store. The chapel had a speaker system installed, so we wired ourselves with small microphones. I stood at the altar, presenting every moment I spent with this entitled bimbo. As my would-be wife walked down the aisle, surrounded by her emotional and supportive family, they snapped pictures and filmed. Suddenly, Josh stepped forward and said, "Wait a minute." His voice was loud and clear, and instantaneously made everyone uncomfortable. The bride stopped walking. Josh looked at my face, even grabbed it sarcastically, and said, "I think we have the wrong lover." Everyone gasped as he rushed over to the curtain behind us, pulling it aside to reveal AP, dressed in a suit, holding a sign that read, "Marry me instead." The bride fainted. Everyone really started freaking out. They didn't know what to think, but I could tell they wanted to be mad at someone. When she came to with a damp cloth on her head, her family demanded answers. She didn't even know that Josh and I contacted AP, asking him to marry her instead. We were able to convince him that it was what she truly wanted, and that their wedding would be a happy, wonderful day. He got down on one knee with his sign, and my fiancée only started sobbing. Her family was still demanding answers, as she stared at me with tears streaming down her face. Her father finally had enough, and grabbed AP by the arm, dragging him outside. She dropped to her knees in front of me at the altar, begging me to forgive her because she truly wanted to marry me, which is why she didn't call off the wedding. I didn't say a word. Josh started reading the messages between her and AP, pronouncing the naughtiest words loud and clear. It became super awkward in the room, and her family started to believe she was cheating on me. Before everyone started filing out, her mother wailed over how much money they spent on the wedding. She asked her how she had the audacity to ruin her life and future by sleeping with another man when she was engaged to be married. Everyone, including Josh and I, left my would-be wife alone in the chapel. Since that day, her only goal has been to get back her family's trust and support, but after that nightmare, I doubt things will ever be easy for her again. After having an altercation outside, AP realized pretty quickly that he messed up too. "OP, you dodged a bullet." Her honest friend and odd behavior clued you in on what was going on, and you took action. I'm glad you gathered evidence and had the support of your best man to turn the wedding against her. You deserve better than this and need to remember that you can find a spouse worthy of your trust. You're lucky you didn't marry or have any kids with her, and that her cheating tendencies were exposed early on. Thank you for sharing your story. I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care.